Hey Gavers,
it's Sean,
and Bree,
and we are the hosts of I Can Explain podcast,
a podcast where we answer the questions you are too afraid to ask about being LGBTQ+.
from queer dating
To LGBTQ+ sex,
to coming out and everything in between.
this lesbian,
And this gay
have got you covered with our queer experiences.
Subscribe to I Can Explain podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
That's I Can Explain podcast. See you around the neighborhood.
What is going on? You are listening to Tags Podcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Steve V, and this is episode 369. Love that number there. Post Memorial Day weekend. Hoping you all had a great long weekend. Still, when recording this in Palm Springs, hanging out with some friends. Had a great time post Cyber Socket Awards and even hung out with one of the winners throughout the weekend. Best Twink Award winner, Luke Trung. Trying to get him on the show. He said he'll do it, so stay tuned for that. Well, on this episode of Tags Podcast, I get to interview two of the co-creators of BALONEY, an under-the-covers look at queer male burlesque. It's a running show quarterly in San Francisco at the Oasis, and there's a brand new documentary coming out July 7th on VOD. You'll want to check it out. But first, let's hear my conversation with the co-creators, Michael Phillis and Rory Davis. Well, I'm very excited today to have two of the co-creators of BALONEY. BALONEY is a San Francisco's first and openly gay all-male review created by partners Rory Davis and Michael Phillis. BALONEY brings fantasies to life on stage. We focus on story, substance, and character. We entertain, we explore sexuality, we provoke discussion and stimulate discovery. We celebrate body diversity, gender diversity, and queer sexuality in all of its many forms. And there's the brand new documentary coming out June 7th, BALONEY, an under-the-covers look at queer male burlesque. I'm excited to be joined by the co-creators, Michael Phillis and Rory Davis. How you guys doing?
Hey, Steve, doing well. Thanks for having us.
Yes, Steve, I'm coming to you live from the Jersey Shore, my parents' shore house. So hopefully we talk about some real dirty stuff today.
Absolutely, we can definitely get into it. And I'm on the West Coast. I'm normally in New York, but in Palm Springs. So I love the power of connection here. Well, you guys, I actually saw the documentary, and I love it. Makes me want to see the show. I have to first ask, because the pandemic has, affected so many creative lives in arts and culture. In the film, we see you guys get creative towards the end with the big gay car wash, which was so fun, just to kind of get the guys back together again. How does it feel to be back? Because I know you have an upcoming show after a couple of years off.
Yeah, it's been such a whirlwind past couple years for any performer, anybody that does live stage stuff. It's been a really tough year, and especially for a show like BALONEY that is so much about intimacy, so much about connecting with our audience physically. We really we had to take a big pause, obviously, for the last couple years. So in doing the car wash was a way to get our folks back out there, get people paid to perform, and to just give the city of San Francisco a little bit of fun interaction, even though they were safely in their cars. And everybody was wearing masks. It was a way to get people to a show again. And it was so wonderful to see those beaming faces as people just press their butts and their boobs and their balls all over their cars. Now we did our first show back at our home venue of Oasis in San Francisco in September of last year. So that was actually our first back on the stage. It felt so good just to be back in the room with people. Even when the audience was fully masked, it still was just a great feeling to be doing what we do again. So this will be our third show back. uh fourth show back. Actually, we had to move our New Year's show because of the Omicron variant. We've just been riding this wave of
Right.
wanting to do the show and having to do it differently, where we have to have everything understudied and really be very careful about planning, just in case anybody has to drop the show or if any changes need to be made to the audience. We're sort of at the whims of health code stuff. So we're just sort of we're doing the show in a new way, where we're just trying to be really flexible about all of that and still give the audience that crazy, wild, dirty concert hall feeling that they're used to.
Right. Our whole lives, things were the show must go on, and then all of a sudden it was, the show not happening, and then it was the show might go on, and I think we're
Right.
hopefully getting back into the first way that it was now, like back to the show must go on.
Yes.
Nice. Oh, well, we're happy to have you back. Well, the show is steamy, it's erotic, it's raunchy, it makes you think. I could tell all in the documentary, which is why I want to see it. But I have to ask you guys are co-creators, but I realize you guys are partners in real life. What's it like working together and being in a relationship?
Rory's laughing. What are you laughing at, dear? No.
Yeah. Be careful now. Tread lightly.
Actually, this is sort of like if we were side by side, I would just be gesturing, and being like, "Take it away," But
Right.
we're on separate coasts, so I'm like, "Michael, what do we do?"
Well, I'll say when we first started, this whole show kind of came out of Rory and I had worked together for years before we ever did Baloney. We actually met working together on stage in a drag number that Rory choreographed for our friend Peaches Christ. He did a Heather's drag number, and he needed a Biff to come out and get shot and lay on the stage naked for the rest of the number. So
when I met Michael, I was dressed as Christian Slater, like in a with an iPhone box on my chest for the Dynamite and the works, and gave him a hug, and I was like, "Stand there."
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, so that's the beginning of our relationship. So I'd say that we're really used to working together. Usually Rory would choreograph and I would be one of the dancers in one of these drag numbers that we'd done for years. And when the opportunity came to do our own show at Oasis, we sort of knew all of these fabulous backup boys that had been working with Queens for years, doing these scantily clad numbers where we all, make the frame around a queen who usually looks so amazing, but also can't dance because she has a huge wig, a corset, 9-inch heels, So we were the ones making the show all around her and setting her up to be fabulous. So we sort of thought, what if we just do a show where we kind of take the queen out of it and we just bring these boys that have been the backup to the front the whole time. And I was just like, what if we combine our loves of performance and porn? And that's where the first Baloney kind of came out of, where we combined our forces. I directed it and hosted it. Rory choreographed it, and I think neither of us really thought that this would be something that we'd be doing almost 10 years later. It was just kind of a lark. It was kind of a way to do a show that had never been done before. And then the electricity of that first show was really the thing that we thought, okay, we got to keep doing this. There's obviously an audience for this. We sold out beyond capacity, so we had to keep doing it. So now I'd say 8 years later, we're still figuring out how to work really well together. I think that the hard part about working with your partner and living with them is where are the boundaries around work?
When you
Right.
clock
Yeah.
out, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, when do you clock out? And I think we both are have different styles too. Rory likes to get the syllabus on day one of the class and do all the reading and be ready and do all his homework right then. I'm a big procrastinator. I only like to do it the night before, and that's when I really jump into gear. So we've definitely had some friction between those two styles. He's also a morning person. I am not a morning person. I'll often wake up and I look and he's like there sitting at the edge of the bed, like, so what do you think about the number in the second act? I'm like, I don't know. I need coffee.
Right.
There have been times where I'm up earlier, so I know like, okay, this emergency came up, and then there's this, we have to deal with this. So he's like waking up, and I hand him a cup of coffee, and I'm like, okay, this person's sick, we got to fix this, and he's like, can I have 5 minutes, please?
So that aside, I mean, it is also kind of great that like we're there for each other. We are so invested in the show. It's our baby, and I guess just like any other parent, I don't really know how it is to be an actual parent, but to be the parent of a show It's always there. You always have to be thinking about it and be taking care of it. But I think we've gotten better over these 8 years about exactly how to do that and how to mesh our styles together to make it the best it can be.
Right, right.
Well, one of the things I love in the film that we get to see is that you give a lot of people watching the show inspiration to go for your dreams, especially in the creative arts, where if you just have, a passion, sometimes, people are working a million other jobs to make it happen. You in particular, Michael, dive deep into putting Baloney on and give up a career job that you had. Was it in tech that you
Yeah,
had?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I think the film's really going to resonate with a lot of people to really just, if you want to, you have to get serious about it. There's going to be a lot of hard work, but you can do it. Do you guys do this for the most part full time now?
We do, and that's been a journey as well for both of us. I mean, we've both had, obviously, living in San Francisco, as you know, is
Yes.
very expensive, and it always has been, even before the tech boom. But I'd say that even more exacerbated the money inequality in the Bay Area, and so many of our artist friends did have to move out of the Bay Area at certain points in the last decade. And we got really close. We're used to living on the knife's edge, I'd say, in terms of money. So that wasn't as big an adjustment for us. We've been living that lifestyle for a long time. But I guess what the adjustment has been is finding stuff that resonates with the new audience in the Bay Area. We've watched just the makeup of audience and who's buying tickets has changed over the last decade as well in interesting ways. So with young tech workers coming into the city, we're trying to find shows that resonate with them, that plus the old guard queerdos that still live
Yeah.
here and always will. And that's another reason why Baloney was something that we wanted to keep doing, was because it resonated across all different ages, all different walks of life. Gay sex just has that way of bringing people together. So
Right.
so we've been it's been difficult for sure to kind of find the thing. But I'd say for any artist that is looking to make that leap, please watch the movie. See kind of how we did it and what inspired us. It really, mine personally came out of pain. I just needed to get out of the tech world. It was driving me crazy because my life was becoming a life without art. And I think that when you're an artist of any kind, professional or passion wise, you need that in your life, no matter what shape it takes.
Right,
So
right. And
so
when
we
you're
took
when
the
you're
leap.
when you're spending all of your time doing money or not, if your whole day is taken up doing something that your heart isn't really in, especially for the two of us, it was like every second that we weren't creating or making something like this, it was like a second wasted. No matter how much money you're making, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and a
Like,
lot of people have the experience of making the art, but I think that it's the selling of the art that is the challenge. And that's what I would advise people, find the thing that feeds your soul to make, but also find something that the world is waiting for in some way, so that you can start to get to the place where you can make money off of your art and hopefully transition to that
It
full
turns out,
time.
turns out it's naked boys in San Francisco. Who knew?
Who knew?
yeah, absolutely. That's a key point too. It's like find it and how to elevate it so that you have an audience and you can live off of it. I
Right.
loved that about the movie, and people should really see it. Well, the film and the show Baloney really gives audience permission to explore their fantasies and their sexualities. I was thinking about it, and it's funny that in 2022, many queer people are, they're sexually free, but in the show and the film, we learned that many of us didn't have any positive examples of our sexuality. I certainly didn't. And, we hid from our feelings of sexuality. But in the show, how much of your own sexuality have you seen evolved in the show? And how do you explore all that?
Oh, I mean, it's so much so. Michael, wouldn't you even say at the beginning when we were first starting? Remember, it kind of took like Daddy Will backstage being so comfortable, like being even naked in front of one another. Like it used to be even a little bit more like close collared about that, wouldn't you say? Like,
Oh yeah, Daddy Will, who we were speaking about earlier, who's been on the show. Yes, Daddy Will
Yes, I
Tantra.
was. Michael and I were talking, Roy, that we love Will Tantra. He's been on our show here, and we were both gymnasts at UC Berkeley. So to see him in the film and in Bologna, I was so excited to see him. I
Oh
love
my
him.
God, yeah.
Yes,
So
he's coming back in
getting,
September.
so we're getting your sloppy seconds then, is what you're saying.
I mean, I had such a. I told him on the show that I had. He was a few years above me at UC Berkeley on the gymnastic team, but we would go when I was in high school and watch the UC Berkeley team. And I told him on our show that I always lusted after him, and he was like, "Oh, you should have tried something." And he says, "Well, there's still time." So I said, "Yes, we need to make that happen."
There you go.
And funny enough,
Yeah.
this even right now, like this situation right now, this is a lot of time how numbers and scenes. So with Bologna, kind of what you'll see with the film too is that it's not Magic Mike. It's not a row of 5 guys dancing to It's Raining Men. It's like stories that play out. It's kind of universal in that way, where besides the host on the microphone, which is Michael, a song plays and a scene plays out with the music playing, and like the music itself kind of speaks for what's going on. But what you were just saying, like sometimes the slightest stories like that, where it's like, oh, a gymnastics team, and I lusted after this guy that was a few years older than me. Like the the simplest little thing like that can plant a seed for us, where we're like, oh, that might be a great scene for us to do. So you never know where the inspiration, where things come from, and then even something like that, like your sexual journey, your awakening, you might see that on stage at some point. And, we'd let you know and be like, hey, we took your story, come see it.
Oh, I would love to see that. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
there's definitely a part where I'm coming from the the acting world, and there were times early in my career where there were, maybe working at a gay theater, there would be pressure, or it was written into the part to be naked on
Right.
stage. And I really rejected that as a young actor, fresh out of college. I want to
You
be,
were a serious
I'm
actor.
serious. I want to be respected for my craft, not for my body.
I'm not
And
kidding, even if it is artistic.
Right.
I'm only getting $100 for this whole 7-week run anyway. It's just a lot of things where it was there was a lot of blockage to me personally to taking off my clothes. And it really wasn't until Bologna, where didn't even do that for the longest time, where as the host I sort of could participate in the show in a different way. But it is really amazing how I've noticed in myself and in our cast this level of comfort in our own skin now, that we're no different physically than we were before. We certainly don't require anybody to make any body changes to be in our show. We do not want you to lose weight or trim your body hair or work out 9 times a day. We want you exactly as you are. We think that's what's sexy. So everybody started to own that too.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about that, because I wanted, there's such body positivity in the show. Like you said, varied types of bodies. I love the various ages even on stage.
Yeah.
But, so many of us, gay men in particular, suffer from body issues. And so I love the inclusivity. And you're right. You're giving permission to everybody in your audience that you can be sexual and explore your sexuality wherever you're at now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
and
important to us.
what was interesting too was that, Michael, like when you say too, in the different cities that we've played, it was interesting to see how either because of age or because of body type or that stuff, like when we went to Palm Springs, some of the more like up to date jokes and like tech things and stuff, we were like, I don't think this crowd necessarily gets this. But then and then when our film played in LA, we performed afterwards, and let's be real, I'm not the skinniest guy ever. I'm built like a linebacker, and I look like I look like I like my
You're hot
my guy. So it was a thing too where like before LA, I was like, I wonder how they're going to respond to me, but of course we have like the guys that could be Chippendales in the show as well. But it's been pretty cool to see when we go to these places where, like, LA has the reputation for, you have to look like a Ken doll, that sort of
right.
thing. But people, even guys that were in the crowd that looked like Ken dolls, loved it. Like it's striking a chord anywhere we go, which has been great to see.
Well, yeah, and on casting, what's it like casting for Bologna? Because, you are open to all types, but it seems like it would have to be a person that is willing to go there. With Hollywood now, you're seeing naked straight people having gay sex on camera. So what's it like casting for Bologna?
That's right. Yeah, it's interesting now how now I feel like mainstream is starting to open up to gay sex. Like for a while, there have been gay representation in media, but a very certain type of gay representation, and only now do I feel like gay sex is starting to get out there, and it's being cast by straight people doing it. But that's just a little sidebar. But I'd say for us, we have to. It's an interesting kind of person that really vibes with baloney. Nobody in the show is a professional stripper or burlesque dancer. We all come from various different walks of life. Some are more from the theater background, some are more from dance, some are bank managers who just
Right.
moonlight
Some
as
are
gay strippers.
straight married bank workers that like this Aaron, he's in the movie, and his whole thing is he just loves like parading around in thongs with a bunch of gay dudes. He just loves it.
He's just
So
a total
Yeah,
weirdo.
I love that. There's a great line in the movie that straight people can be queer.
Yeah.
I love that line. That's so true.
Yeah,
yeah,
so it's not even necessarily that you have to be gay or that you have to be a man to be in baloney, but you do have to have that willingness to bear yourself, right? That's the
Right.
big question that I ask everybody that comes in. And I've found, as we were talking about earlier, just the change in all of us. I found that something that gave me such pause before, something that, well, I don't want to be objectified by people. Now I gain so much power from that, and as does everybody else in our cast. We've just taken ownership of our bodies and of showing our bodies, and taken power and ownership over our own sexuality. And it's so funny when you just make that mental switch in your head that like, I'm going to strip off these clothes in front of these people, and I'm going to take their reactions, and I'm going to own that it starts to give you a kind of confidence that even if you were faking it before, now
Yeah.
it starts to become real. And
right.
so people, as long as they're willing to bear themselves in that way, I think that they can start to be a good fit for baloney. And you have to have some sort of performance. There's a lot of people that have no problem taking off their clothes in front of
Right.
people.
Yes.
They can't wait to do that. But there's
Right.
also sort of, we do have to have a certain amount of magnetism on stage, a certain amount of talent that we can work with, so that we can also tell the it's a little more complicated, as Rory said, than just kind of standing there and stripping. There's also an acting and a dance and a performance element that has to go along with that. So finding the balance between that. Plus, we really want our cast to be reflective of the city that we live in. We want to be diverse in how we present race and ethnicity and gender expression. So we're always looking to that as well. What does the larger cast of Baloney tell you about the place that you're in right now? So body diversity, age diversity, and racial and gender diversity is always going to be important to how we cast.
Yeah, and on talking about the staging of the show, oftentimes there's several guys on stage, and it's a really tight show. Rory, you're the choreographer. Shout out to you. I was looking at your Instagram, and I loved your rendition of Janet Jackson's "If," one of my favorite.
Thank you. Yes, I got whiplash after that class, so I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's really great. You guys got to watch that. But what's it like? Because the choreographing, obviously, you can do like if choreography. Um, but what's it like doing balonies, which are tell a story, and they don't. A lot of those types of stagings can feel muddled, but yours isn't. How do you go about
Oh,
that?
thank you. Yeah, I mean, so funny enough, before Bologna really took off, my main bread and butter, and it still is. We're coming back again at the end of the summer. But I worked with Peaches Christ, who's
Oh,
like the legendary
love.
queen here. So I staged those big movie parody numbers at the Castro Theater. So like any of those Rue girls. The reason my hair is now silver is basically because of them. So what I loved about those numbers too was that it sort of like gave me a footing of, okay, if we're doing the opening number of Death Becomes Her, like Meryl Streep's big Me production number, which by the way we're doing again with Ben and Jinx in August. So that's
Oh,
sort of a recreation, but I love finding my footing with those numbers where like the story has to move the show along as well, and then sort of applying that stuff to Baloney too, with where the movement does tell the story as well. And what I love about Baloney too, we were talking about casting before. There's maybe a rolling group of 15 to 20 of us that come in and out for different shows, but I'd say maybe 3 or 4 are trained dancers, and Some have to have a, telling right from left is a little bit of an issue and all this stuff. So it's sort of all those numbers you saw though included people that are trained and people that don't know right from left. So it's sort of my job to find the middle ground of things that are dynamic and look great and make sure I'm not leaving anybody in the dust or leaving more skilled people behind. So it's really kind of like finding that medium with these numbers. So thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
Oh no, of course. Yeah. And I mean, I gotta imagine you've been doing Baloney for several years now, but what was it like watching the film, seeing it all out there, seeing the commentary, there's some really great profiles of some of the individual cast members that really give a deep down look on their particular story and how they've come, how they've dealt with their sexuality or personal issues that you get to see. What was it like for you two seeing it on the screen?
We were saying, Michael, if I could take the wheel, we were saying like when we were such, I think appropriately so, like control freaks about like,
right, because you weren't in control. Yeah, we should shout out to the director.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is too, like every night, like Thursday opening night, yay, great show, but make sure with this, like this costume thing is off. Point your toes. Don't forget about this.
Notes.
Right. Always notes.
And
yes.
And movies are so finite. And I am one of those like annoying people that's like, my real love is the stage. And it's because of that. It's because like, oh, this didn't get as much of a laugh as I thought. Let's fix it tomorrow. Whereas with this movie, we did the interviews and they filmed stuff. And then like now when we realized, I mean, let's be real. We love Joshua so much, Michael, but our director, Joshua Gersey, when he first started filming us, I thought this thing was going to be screened in his basement for a couple of friends. So then we had our big frame line premiere and it's like, we're walking the red carpet and I'm thinking back like, what did we say? Like what?
Right. This was 3 years in the making, the filming of this. So, you just kind of, after a while it became wallpaper. Just, of course, the crew's going to be there. Of course, we're going to do the thing. But we stopped really thinking about, which is good. I think that's why it's so natural because the cameras just became a part of our process. But keep going, Rory.
Right. But then, at the premiere, we're there, we walk the red carpet, we go in and we sit down. And again, like we had absolute trust in Joshua, of course, but we knew that other people were interviewed and all this stuff. And to have this moment where it's like, oh God, is this going to be like the final episode of The Comeback where it's like this terrible.
I love that.
One of our favorite shows of all time.
Favorites of all time, mine too. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, that's what we were worried about.
Totally,
yeah.
We were. It's like, and of course, like everybody said the nicest stuff. And it's like this really wonderful thing. It's like, and funny enough, though, in my mind, I'm like, is this going to be interesting to other people when they see this? Because for me, I'm like, oh, look, we look great, but it's my friends, but it's gotten such a great reception. But again, there is that moment of even watching yourself in these talking heads. And I'm sure if you go back and listen to podcasts, it might be like, oh, why did I say that? Or why did I?
Exactly.
So it is. So for me, I'm so thrilled with the film and I'm so happy it's going to get this exposure and people are seeing it, but you'll find me on stage for sure.
Well, and as you were saying, one of the things that really struck me was getting to see what members of the company had to say about the company in the film, because we've been doing this for years with these people, but when do you ever sit down and talk about what the work means to you with your friends? Like what do you I just feel like friends and especially with the kind of work that we're doing, we just don't have time to sit down and be like, okay, now let's talk about how Baloney has impacted your life. We're too busy being like, okay, now get on the chair and grind on the lap. We just don't have those kind of conversations. So to hear what it meant to people behind the scenes and how it had affected their life so positively, I think that was the major thing about the movie that really struck me, was just to know that we weren't alone in how we were thinking about Baloney, and we weren't the only ones that felt that it was this special. Obviously they keep returning year after year to do the show, but it was really nice to hear how deeply people felt and what a positive impact it had made in the lives of the performers. And we really got to learn about that through the movie, which was amazing.
Right.
Yeah, the power of film, and the film has such heart, I think, is what you also get from it. I think it's going to, more people are going to learn about it. There's a great, well, not really great, where you're talking about promoting, just marketing for Baloney, and how we get this on our show a lot because we're talk about gay sex. So one of our Instagram accounts was taken down, and it wasn't anything that we were posting that was even that explicit, but with algorithms, and as I'm sure you can attest to, don't know how to filter all that out. And you talk in the show, it's hard to even promote. Facebook doesn't even let you put ads. So there's a great scene of you going around the city just putting out old school posters to promote it. But I think this film is going to introduce it to an international audience, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
Yay,
Speaking of
I
which,
can't
Michael, have you postered since I left?
I'm going today. I'm going.
Because you have an upcoming show, correct?
We do, yeah, and that's how we do it. We, our major promotional budget is printing costs for posters, because years ago we got blacklisted by most social media. Once you're on the list that you are porn, you cannot put out an ad. But it's just kind of amazing to me that all the other things that are allowed to be out there, we won't go into that now, but there is such a stigma against gay sex, and and so we had to learn to be scrappy about that right away. So we are firmly in the underground. Even still now, as sort of a San Francisco institution, we still find that there are people that don't know about us, because it's how do you find it out? So word of mouth has really been our biggest thing. I'm very curious. There's no way to really know what impact the movie will have, but except that it will be more awareness than before. So I will say, though, that it's an interesting phenomena. If you do go to Baloney Facebook right now, every now and then there's something where it's like you have nine comments on this post. We're like, oh, let's look at it. Every now and then one of our posts will go completely viral, and it will go around the world, and it says a million people have reacted, a million people.
Wow.
And we're like, oh wow, and this is some innocuous thing where we have Slade and Jules are making out in this post that we did 3 years ago, and somehow it hits the algorithm and it goes around the world. And the reason that we find out about it is because those 9 comments that we just got are, I'd say 7 of them are puke emojis.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
2 of them are when you do the Google Translate, it's, man and woman only. It's just sort of like, you get to see what a bubble we truly are in when one of these posts do go viral, and you get to see just how much hate pours out from people. And I don't even know where in the world they are. But it is kind of mind-boggling every now and then when we do hit the algorithm, how it's like, there's maybe 1 or 2 people that are like, this is hot, so hot, but for the most part, it's almost, we just kind of laugh when we scroll through. We're just like, these people need to get a life. They just came here to do a puke emoji on this, this guy's kissing. It's not even that bad.
We learned that love is universal and puke emojis are universal.
Oh no.
So if anybody out there does see the film, come in and say something nice and scroll, you'll see there's puke emojis from all over the world. So
we really are making an impact. We're
bringing people together.
Well, I love it. I love the film so much. People should see it. The documentary Behind the Scenes of Baloney is coming out on VOD June 7th. Very excited about that. Michael, Rory, thank you so much. I'm so excited to see the reaction, because I love the movie so much. And you can see Baloney in San Francisco at the Oasis July 7th through the 14th. Is that correct?
Through the 16th. Yeah. Thursday, Friday,
16th.
Saturday. Yeah.
And where should people go to find out? Direct people to your website, or how you want people to follow?
Our website is sfbaloney.com. That's BALONEY. It's the nonsense spelling of baloney, not the meat spelling, although we get that a lot. So check out sfbaloney.com. There's information about all of our social media and about our upcoming show, and our ticket sales are on there as well.
Nice. Well, thank you so much.
It's
been such a pleasure. Absolutely.
Thanks for having us. I hope we'll see you at the show. And if you're there, we will definitely bring you up on stage and give you a lap dance.
Yes.
Oh, I would love that. Please.
Bring your penicillin.
Oh, okay.
My God,
Perfect.
I'm shirtless and I'm all sunscreen and greased up. I thought we'd be on camera. Bummer.
Hot. I'm actually.
Oh my God! At the Jersey Shore.
How funny! I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wear clothes just in case.
No, me too.
Shoot, and I was too. I'm in Palm Springs, so you know how it goes here.
There we go. Something fun for the audience to imagine.
If you guys have a Patreon, we'll send selfies.
There you go.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you guys
Thanks
so
for having
much.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I love those guys, and I'm going to definitely take them up and go see the show and get pulled up on stage. Who knows what will happen? Check out this film, though, June 7th on VOD, because I think it's a great way to celebrate Pride Month. And definitely check out BALONEY the next time they are live in San Francisco. Well, we are live this Wednesday for Tags Live. Cody Maurice Doggett and myself at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Join us. All information is at TAGSPODCAST.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. I'm talking Instagram, the TikTok, Twitter, at Tags Podcast, at Tags Podcast. And in the meantime, continue having hot, gay sex.